Hello YouTube, this is Peter coming at you with a podcast-style video, and today I want to talk about disillusionment with social media. Honestly, I've been feeling a lot of that recently, and I want to get the audience's take on it, to see if you can relate to any of my thoughts and feelings, and to hear your thoughts and feelings on the subject. Now, I want to begin this with a screenshot of a tweet that I saw on Facebook. And I say all of that because it's relevant to what the tweet says. Tom Eastman says, "I'm old enough to remember when the internet wasn't a group of 5 websites, each consisting of screenshots of text from the other 4. Yeah, I saw that on Facebook, and it's from Twitter. I saved that to my phone because it really hit home to me of what the internet in general has become. We've all been corralled into a handful of sites which are becoming increasingly restrictive and even draconian in what sort of content they're allowing. We only have a couple days left till the Tumblr porn apocalypse that will probably kill off much of its user base, regardless of whether or not they're interested in seeing porn on the site or not. And that got me thinking about the increasing sense of a lack of free expression and honest connection and communication on social media. So I'm feeling strangely nostalgic for Geocities. If you're not of a certain age, you probably either don't remember Geocities or you laugh at the thought of Geocities. And it's less that I'm nostalgic for Geocities at a technological level because it was, by today's standards, absolutely primitive, but rather it was my first experience of something like social media, where I was a teenager who could not afford the hosting fees of a website. I didn't know how to build a website. There were not all the tools that are available today to make website building easy. And yet I could create a free GeoCities site and put whatever I wanted on it. Mine really just, it had a bunch of like song lyrics and stuff about the bands I liked, and really overly enthusiastic, like embarrassingly enthusiastic reviews of concerts that I had gone to, and a little bit of my own writing and some other things. It was the first experience of being able to create something on the internet that was a space of my own. And when social media came out, you gave up some of the customization for connecting with your friends and family, and in some cases an audience, if you're the sort of person who creates the sort of things that cultivates an audience. And so, although it was a step away from personalization, again, there was the benefit side of it. And then came in more and more types of social media. I think a lot of people today take for granted the ability to easily share things like photo, video, music, if you've created the music yourself and it's not just going to get instantly struck down by copyright. I'm old enough to remember a time when all of that was something that you could not easily share, especially because video takes up a lot of space by the standards of circa 2001, 2002. And all these social media sites not only combined the ability to upload it, but to host it and to share it. And it really got that was the whole appeal of it, connecting to people, sharing content. But over time, we've seen not only restrictions in what sort of content you can post, which is something that's mostly coming about lately as a reaction to things like fake news or to Alex Jones fans harassing grieving parents and calling them crisis actors, or whatever moral panic has sparked whatever new forms of censorship and changes of terms of service. Aside from all of those things, there's just the algorithms themselves that choose what you see and don't see. So, for example, if you're subscribed to this channel, you may or may not receive this video in your subscription box. No matter how much you want to see it, you have to constantly engage with the content of a YouTube channel or your friends on Facebook or whatever else, or the other algorithm is just going to decide, well, I guess they don't care. Let's just not show them that. Let's show this other thing instead. And it becomes an increasingly restricted view of not just the internet as a whole, but of what's out there on social media, the connections that you've already established. You would think that by hitting subscribe that would mean something, but then they changed it. Well, you can't just subscribe. Now you have to also want to be notified. Well, if it's not going to show up when I subscribe, then what the fuck is the point of the subscription button? What is the point of adding a friend or subscribing to a channel or following something if some algorithm just decides, you don't really want to see that? So not only does it make the internet seem more boring and restrictive, because it's just showing you more and more and more of the same things from the same people, and there's only so much that they can produce or that will interest you. So it all starts to feel restrictive and repetitive. Even in the news app on my phone, you know, I clicked on one article about one of the cast members of Game of Thrones. I never should have done that, because now suddenly it's like I'm constantly seeing these articles about you know, Sophie Turner's engagement to Nick Jonas. Like, I don't fucking care. The private lives of celebrities is not really something that interests me. It's not my business. I'm interested in the show. I may be interested in some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, but I really don't want to see a bunch of celebrity gossip crap. But the moment you click on one thing, it's like, here's just more of this. And that's just yet another thing that feels like it's backfiring. Not only can I, as a creator, have to struggle to get what I create out there to people, but I, as a consumer of content, end up getting bored by most of the stuff, and one wrong click on something, and suddenly I'm just inundated with articles that I don't in fact have any real interest in reading, and posts that I don't have any interest in reading. And increasingly, it seems like the fresh and new things in my, say, Facebook newsfeed, half of it's like advertisements or paid posts for articles or clickbait or other things like that. That's the only thing that feels fresh. And so all of that sort of converges to create a growing tolerance. I mean that in like the sense of like drugs, where before a single puff of the marijuana got you high, and now you got to smoke like 4 bowls in a row to get that same feeling of being stoned. Like tolerance in the sense of building up a neurological tolerance to a drug, because at the end of the day, that is how social media operates in terms of you coming back again and again and again and again and again, is triggering the reward center of your brain. And more and more, I feel like when I see a notification, rather than be like, "Oh boy, a notification," and you know, I rush, half the time it's like, what crap is this now? Is it yet another post from some group that I joined on Facebook, but I don't want to see absolutely every single post from? Is it actually someone trying to communicate with me? Because more and more, I'm getting notifications that are not people responding to what I do, not people communicating with me, but things that are just noise. And I feel like the entire structure of social media is really starting to backfire on itself in that sense. And again, this is one of those things where your mileage may vary drastically, because I'm nearly 35 years old. I've been on social media for well over a decade now. But if you're a teenager and it's all still new and fresh, and oh my god, my friend liked that Instagram thing that I posted, well, the pleasure reward dopamine centers in my brain are on fire. I mean, maybe it still works for you. You know, maybe you're still a one puff pony, or however you want to phrase it, right? But the longer you've been on, the more jaded you become to it. And I feel like if what I'm experiencing is a widespread phenomenon, it's inevitable that something will have to change because of it. Because if people start to engage with these sites less and less, then they're going to be scrambling to figure out ways to get you re-addicted to the site and have to change things up. Or maybe the internet will the nature of the internet will change in general, because again, I'm old enough to remember when the internet was different and you interacted with it different. It felt different. It wasn't all just, the internet wasn't limited to 5 sites reposting things from other sites. There was more diversity to it. There was more of whatever, however you want to put it. And in gaming, particularly card games, there's what they call the NPE, negative player experience. If certain types of decks become popular and effective, they solve the meta, as the kids like to say nowadays, but it's not really interacting. Your opponent is playing solitaire, as they say, and you just have to sit around for 10 minutes while your opponent's deck does whatever it does, pulls off whatever absurd combo. Usually that's when the publisher of the game steps in and we're going to ban this card and this card and this card, and that's going to destroy this strategy, or we're going to put it on a restricted list, so we're going to break up this deck type so that the meta isn't dominated by this combo that creates this negative play experience to make the game fresh and more competitive. That's one of the primary reasons behind banned and restricted lists in card games, unless they just make some card where it's like, oh, this card plus this card breaks the game. Whoops. Should have play tested more. And so social media, if they have a set of conditions in which the users have a negative user experience and they start to turn off from their platforms, then they're like, ah, crap, we got to figure out some way to bring these people back by changing the user experience. And so I'm not sure exactly what it will look like. Maybe it will look like more people who are content creators going, striking out on their own with websites, sort of going retro, or new social media platforms emerging with different styles. But as someone who creates things where I want a kind of repository of things that I've done, that it can be accessed, and that it's not just going to be like tossing something into a river that gets swept away. I mean, they call it a stream for a reason. I don't feel well served by things like Facebook. I sort of am nostalgic for the days of my MySpace blog, because that was a semi-permanent feature of the site where you could go on someone's page and there was a section, here's the blog, you click on their blog, you see the latest things, and it just doesn't get swept away into the stream to either disappear or to not show up at all. And I don't really know, but I feel like something has to change with social media and the internet. I'm not sure exactly what that change will look like. I'm not saying it's inevitable, but I think I cannot possibly be the only one getting sick of the way things are. And I want something more out of going on Facebook than just seeing endless memes and viral videos and crap like that. It feels really empty increasingly. It's just like eating junk food. And it doesn't have to be that way, because in principle, it is a way in which people can share things and connect with each other. And yeah, maybe part of the problem is most people don't really create much or have much to say. But I also feel like that's selling people short, and social media has, in a lot of ways, shown how creative the average person can be and has democratized content creation. So I don't want to sound like a complete cynic in that regard. I think a lot of it just has to do with the way that these sites are structured nowadays. So again, I want to know if any of you relate to what I've been saying and to hear your thoughts on it. And I might make more videos in this vein if I have any other things worth saying. But have a good whatever time it is.